Hi guys, and welcome to the podcast. I am, of course, your host and podcast founder, Lawrence Francis. I just want to take this opportunity to give you a quick overview of this series, which features coverage of the Dublin Wine and Cheese Festival, which took place at Iveagh Gardens in central Dublin between the 8th and the 11th of August 2019, which will air on the Interpreting Wine podcast between episodes 289 and episode 300. This will feature a mixture of talks and one-to-one interviews with some of the leading lights in the Irish and international wine scene. This consumer fair is now in its second year, and I was seriously impressed with the quality of speaker overall. I think that events of this type really lend themselves well to being covered for the podcast, and would love to feature more events of this kind in the future. So without further ado, here is today's episode of the Dublin Wine and Cheese Festival 2019 series. Today's episode of the podcast features Claire Gallagher of Greenman Wines in a one-to-one interview. We hear their fascinating origin story before Claire takes us on a Greenman virtual tour, and she finishes off with some of the consumer trends that she's spotting in Greenman Wines. Enjoy.
So my name is Claire Gallagher, and myself and my husband David Gallagher opened Greenman Wines in Terenure 4 years ago. For my introduction to wine really had come via Blue Nun, funny enough. My parents didn't drink at all, but as a kid I was always fascinated by languages and other cultures, and I did German in school. And I found a bottle of Blue Nun in my granny's, what she called her old kitchen, which is kind of like an old outhouse. And I was fascinated by it, and I kind of brought it in to school to scrapbook it. But for me, that was really the first time I remember being really interested in wine as something different and something outside of what I was used to. I studied Italian in college, and I went to Italy for a summer. And that opened up an entire world to me of history and geography and science and everything really that wine encompasses. And when I came back from that, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to work in the wine business. So myself and David, we worked in Oddbins together in the early 2000s. And we, from the very beginning, we were like, let's do something. And it really took us a long time to get to where we were in opening Greenman. We'd looked in 2006 at opening somewhere, which was the height of the Irish boom, the height of the boom everywhere, really. And the money was incredible, key money, lots of huge opening costs. And thank God we didn't actually do anything then. And then a friend of ours who had a business close by us in Terenure said, guys, when are you going to do something? And there's a unit that is coming up for rent. And we'd already had a business plan very much in place, and we looked at it and we thought, this is exactly what we want and in the area that we want it. And we opened, we did kind of a quick back of the envelope calculation. At that time rents were relatively low. We're like, okay, if we can sell X amount per year, this can be viable. And we did that. We're a wine shop with a wine bar, and the idea has always been to serve artisanal food and wine together in a really convivial atmosphere. That's always been the bottom line. For years I'd worked with Le Caveau, who are one of the really leading edge importers of natural wines and organic and biodynamic wines into Ireland, and that was incredibly important for me. It was a great experience. Loved working there and learned a huge amount about wines on the bigger scale. Different wines, more unique, interesting artisanal wines. And David, for his part, worked with Fallenburn, who are, again, a groundbreaking food hall and wine bar in the city centre. They have a few different branches around the city now, but he gains huge experience there. He ran the wine bar and ran the food hall for a while as well. So that was fantastic experience for both of us. So in 2015 we opened our doors, initially just serving plates of charcuterie and cheese and very, very simple menu with an absolutely rocking wine list. And what we were very conscious of initially was we didn't want to get boxed into just being organic or biodynamic or natural, because that's not what we're about as people. We didn't want to kind of go down the whole route of just being one thing just to service a market demand. I mean, we love our classics. We love our Burgundy, we love our Bordeaux, we love Good Rhone. So we have a really strong selection of those as well. And for us, once the wine is well made and once it's really interesting and tells a story, that's what we're all about. And last year then we put in a full kitchen where we worked with fantastic chef Sebastian Sanz, who's originally Uruguayan. And we're working on the food element of it, just trying to just tweak it every year, just to really kind of hit that sweet spot between what we want to do and bring really interesting food and experience to people. And conviviality. I mean, David has a little joke, kind of what goes on in Greenman stays in Greenman. So there's always a bit of banter and a bit of crack and all the rest of it. So we have good fun and great conviviality.
That's brilliant. I love the way that you weave those elements together, and I feel like you brought us bang up to date, with your origins right the way through from the Blue Nun right the way through to present, and maybe no Blue Nun on the shelves now anymore. But yeah, I would have loved to have been able to go there and visit you. We're at the fantastic Wine and Cheese Festival here in Dublin, but it looks like I won't get the chance to go and visit Greenman, unfortunately, next time. But what would be great is, for me and for the listener as well, could you give us a virtual tour? What is it like if, that first time you go in, open the door, what might we find if we, pop over to Greenman at some point in the future?
Okay. So our shop and wine bar is located quite literally at a traffic crossing, and you come in through the door, and I think the first thing that a lot of people say that strikes them is just the sense of welcome and energy good energy that's in the place. We've just recently put in a high top table which has been made by a wonderful craftsman called James, who designed all the furniture element of the shop, and we have used old box ends from various different wooden boxes, and people can sit around that or lean on it and just have a glass of wine as they come in. So as you come in, the shelves are lined. There's shelves on both sides of the room, and they're lined. They work from Italy, Spain, Portugal, and a little bit of New World. We would love to have more New World, but space at the moment is just not enough. And then virtually an entire wall on the opposite side is dedicated to France, along with a little bit of Central Europe as well, Germany and Central European wines and Georgian wines as well. Then there's an archway, and in there, in the back room, as we call it, is our wine bar proper, I guess. And that's kind of morphed, as I said, from kind of just simple cheese and charcuterie plates. We've put in a very small but very functional kitchen, and able to do a full-on, really kind of good restaurant quality food now. So Sebastian does things like West Cork Black Soul Marnier. And he cooks it beautifully, always cooked in the bone. We do really good côte de bœuf. Sourced from Higgins Butchers, and we also work with a really good local butcher who is called James and owns the Brown Pig in Terenure, and people absolutely love his meat and steaks. They're superb quality. In the morning, we're always there from around about 9:30 or so, but we don't open until 11. In the morning is all about kind of working with her, putting together orders from the internet, from our web sales, getting ready for the day. We always have people popping in and out, and we do a little bit of retail during the day, and that's where my heart is. I love retail. I really, really enjoy it. I love dealing with people, interacting with people, and really finding firsthand their reactions to wine, because I worked for 13 years with an importer, which I absolutely loved, and it was brilliant dealing business to business. But I often miss that personal interaction, just direct to the consumer, and that's what I actually really, really enjoy. And then in the evening time during September to November, we do a whole series of wine tastings. So we'll get in really kind of leading edge importers or winemakers who will come over. So, for example, recently enough, we had Camille Lapierre from Mathieu et Camille Lapierre in Beaujolais came over, did a wonderful tasting. Chris Forbes from Taylor's Port comes over at least twice a year and does wonderful tastings with us. So there's always something new, something different happening. So we do that September to November, and then January through to about April, May each year, usually on a Monday or Tuesday night. And I also used to lecture for the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, so that's something we're going to work on. We're going to start doing kind of wine courses and kind of like mini kind of seminars and workshops ourselves as well. So we'll do that, I think, on a Monday night when it's, quite quiet, and we will do that. So then in the evening on a Wednesday through to a Sunday evening, the restaurant opens at 5 o'clock for service, and service kicks off at that time. And usually, it's can be quite quiet, as you'd expect, between about 5 and 7ish, and then after that, it gets busy through to about 10:30 in the evening.
It's really fascinating to me that you have so much, I guess, direct to consumer interaction, in the different hats that you're wearing. Somebody might come in and they're buying a bottle of wine, or they might be eating there, or they might be coming to do a course, or all of these different ways that they can interact with you and I guess the brand and the space. So could you kind of give us a bit of a sense of what are the types of things you're being asked about? What are the sorts of trends that you're seeing? Almost like pull back and sort of draw, I guess, some of the strands between all of those different interactions and experiences that you're having in the shop.
Okay. Yeah, great. So the thing I love about our customer base is it's incredibly varied. So we get people from college students coming in who maybe are doing culinary arts in DIT, and they're coming in, they go, we've done a wine course and we've tasted this wine and it's just blowing our minds and we want to try something different. So we get people coming in and they maybe older people coming in and they say, I tried this and I had never tried anything like it before. I'd grown up drinking, Bordeaux or kind of all these really kind of structured reds or Australian reds. And this is something completely different and I loved it and it was unexpected. And that's something we see a lot of. And it's just, for me, it's fascinating when somebody tries something and they love it and it opens up a door to something different. That gives me a lot of satisfaction, actually. When somebody goes, I never expected to like a wine from Tenerife, or I didn't know they made wine in the Czech Republic, and that tastes amazing. And that's, to me, the wine world is changing so fast. It's no longer this kind of really set in stone, you must drink red wine with red meats, or all these old kind of paradigms. They're being absolutely blasted asunder, and that's tremendously exciting, actually. And people are really getting on board with that. And of course they still love the classics, and the classics are changing too. We see it in Bordeaux. We see a lot more biodynamic viticulture, much more sustainable viticulture coming out of Bordeaux, and a real kind of sea change in the way that Bordeaux estates are being, for want of a better word, marketed, I guess. It's a lot more personal, and it's a lot more it's a lot more direct to consumer rather than being a very corporatized business. What else? We see interest in certainly organics and biodynamics. We also see on the flip side of it, people come in and they go, well, I don't like organic wine because I've tasted some horrendous ones, and I suppose you really have to educate them in a way, saying, look, there are organic wines out there which aren't good. They're box ticking exercises. Whereas and organics is not about, for me, it's not about an end process. To me, it's the starting point of good viticulture, and we see that. With climate change, every year you hear about how difficult it is for people in Burgundy or any part of the world. They're dealing with extreme heat, they're dealing with drought, they're dealing with hailstones at unexpected time of the year. And if your vineyards are not healthy in and of themselves, you're not going to be able to deal with that. So I guess those kind of vineyards and those kind of producers are just they're the starting point. They're not the end goal. It's not a box ticking exercise at all. And just with the talk that I was doing earlier, that sense of discovering old traditions and keeping heritage grape varieties and increasing biodiversity, it all links back in to sustainability. I mean, that's where I think the next thing really is sustainability in everything we do, whether that's transport or wine or food. We can't keep going the way we're going, really. And I think if I often struggle with, like, are we doing something that really makes a difference? And I actually think if we can just get that little message out that wine can make a difference in the world, if you really focus, because for me it's a canary in the coal mine. Wine growers at the very leading edge of climate change, they see it every single vintage, what a struggle it is to put their production into a bottle of wine. And I think that if that alone is the message, like, we have to live a bit more sustainably, then that makes sense for me.
Thank you so much, Claire, for appearing again. It was really great to be able to share your story one-to-one, as well as the excellent talks that you gave across the weekend. I've left their website and main social media handles below, as well as the physical address of Greenman Wine, so do be sure to check them out next time you're in Dublin. And of course, why not follow along with me on social media, where I'm at Interpreting Wine on Instagram and Facebook, at Wine Podcast on Twitter, and email hello@interpretingwine.com. Next time, episode 299 sees the return of Lynn Coyle, MW, as she takes to the stage to deliver her rosé talk. See you then.